Was coming home 3 a.m. one day. I was about 2 minutes away from my home, bro. And the road was flooded. And I hit the water. I hydroplaned, bro. And I flipped 5 times. And that's why I have this tattoo right here, bro. This is the day it happened, July 14th, 2019. I'll never forget. And this Psalm 138:7, it says, "Though I walk through the midst of trouble, you preserve my life."
Welcome to the Byond Sunday podcast, where we continue the conversation of God beyond Sunday. Today's guest is a professional basketball player in Mexico. We got David Rico in the house. Round of applause. What's up, David Rico?
What's up,
All right, man. So tell me a little bit about that professional basketball player, Mexico.
Yeah, man. So I graduated college 2021, and I had an agency reach out to me. They're called One World Sports Group. He reached out to me via Instagram, actually, and then his name was Adrian Zamora. He was working as a scouting scout talent agent, and he hit me up and he was like, "Hey, we've seen your profile, we've seen your stats, we heard you're of Mexican descent. Would you consider playing basketball in Mexico?" And growing up, that was obviously always a dream of mine. You know, you want to play professional basketball, or be a professional athlete in general. So I told them, like, yeah, man, you know, like, I'd be willing to do that. So we had a couple of Skype calls. I met with them and another agency called Rockin' Sports, all through via Skype. And I liked One World a little bit more because it was a little bit more professional. They put a little bit more attention into their players, I would say. And I ended up signing with them, bro. And I got my first contract a year ago in January, actually. And I was out there for 3 months. I won a championship with them in the league, LBE Mex Bet. And then I took off again in July to play their LMBP season, which basically is their NBA season over there.
So I'm a little, I don't know much about how basketball works. So enlighten me in the sense of, like, do you go out to other countries to play?
Well, currently, right now, I'm only playing in Mexico because it's easier for me. I have a Mexican passport. So for me, I'm seen as a local over there. So every team is only allowed 4 imports, I would say 3 or 4 imports. So, but I play as an American because I grew up here my whole life, but I'm technically a local over there. So teams like that, you know. But I could say I could get a contract in like Brazil, Argentina, and go play over there, which is obviously a goal of mine. But currently, right now, my last 2 seasons, I've been in Mexico.
Cool, man. So tell us about the work that it takes to be a professional basketball player. Like I don't know. Are you drilling all the time? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's a lot of late nights, early mornings, bro. I'll tell you that. You have to sacrifice a lot, bro. Social life, even time with your family sometimes, you know, like there'll be times where I have my whole family at home and everybody's just having a good time. And I'm like, dang, I have to go work out, you know, or I have to go train and I have to leave. Like, there's no buts or ifs, like, oh, you know, maybe I'll skip today. But if you think like that, then you probably, you know, you're not going to make it pretty far. So
that's interesting. So then this basketball thing you've had your whole life, right? You like playing ball your whole life. Why do you think you like playing ball? The sport was fun, or was it like an outlet?
Well, first I was a soccer player, actually. I grew up being a soccer player. I was a goalie because I was a little chunky kid growing up. And then my oldest brother, actually, he played basketball for Kerman High back in, I want to say like 2008 or something, when Coach Wafer was around. And just I was in 6th grade, bro, just going to his games, the atmosphere, everybody acknowledging him, knowing who he was. You know, I liked that. I gravitated towards it. And basketball was a little bit more fast-paced than soccer. So I kind of fell in love with the fast pace of it. So ever since then, bro, I would probably say my oldest brother kind of guided me to play basketball.
What's your favorite aspect of the sport?
I would probably say how fast paced it is, because it doesn't matter if you mess up. Say you turn the ball over, you can go right back and get it right back on defense, and it's just, back and forth, and then best team wins after all.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Okay, and then now you're a coach. You're a coach in Kerman High, right? You're assistant coach in Kerman High School.
Yes, sir.
How is that?
It's crazy how life like goes full circles, bro, because the kids that I was coaching this year, we had, I want to say 11 seniors. The kids that I was coaching this year, they were the kids that would come to the little camps when I was in high school. So when I was in high school, say my sophomore, junior year, and we had camps like basketball halves, little hoopsters, those are the same kids who were seniors now. And it's just crazy how it was full circle. And I ended up coaching their senior year, or helping coach their senior year.
And what is it what one thing that you try to instill in the kids, knowing that, I mean, since you were a professional basketball player, right? Like, what's one thing, do you have like a specific advice you give them, like, to be, if they're trying to strive to make this a career path?
Yeah, bro. Well, just to be humble, like I saw that firsthand. Like, I was pretty good here in Kerman, around the schools locally. But once you go and play against kids from like LA, or kids from Texas or Dallas or, Arizona, you never know, like New York, like those kids come from rough backgrounds, and that's all they have. Like, that's their outlet.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that they grow up thinking, like, I'm making to the NBA or I'm a bust, basically. So just be humble, bro, be coachable, and hard work, bro, because eventually all that hard work you put in, it has to pay off, or it will pay off.
Yeah. So humbleness is the key.
Yeah, humbleness and being coachable, because nowadays I feel like all this social media, bro, like kids get a big head early on, So I feel like just being cool and being humble, like, and being coachable allows you to keep learning. And when you keep learning, that's how you keep getting better every day.
And so did you have to learn that humbleness? Did you have to like learn that, you said?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of always was already humble, bro, but not going to lie, my senior year, I broke the school record for most points.
So it's a flex.
A little bit, slight flex.
It's a current flex.
But I mean, I thought I was, a big dog eventually. Well, I guess you could say I thought I was a big dog. But coming out of high school, bro, I didn't have any like D1 scholarships or offers or anything like that. I had like NAIA D2 schools, to where I was like, dang, like I'm not that good compared to the other people around.
So, okay, so in high school, right? Let's stay on the high school topic for a bit. Your social life, or even just your life in high school, how was that? Like, were you super into, you were always playing ball? Was that the only sport you played, or did you play other ones?
Yeah, I mean, I was always a hard worker, bro. I would always go to practice, come home, put in the extra work. But I actually played football my freshman year and my senior year. Freshman year, it was more of a, I wanted to try it out. All my friends played football. I love watching football, bro. And then the one thing I didn't like was that it took all your summer away from you, bro. Yeah. It's just a grind. So I told myself after my freshman year, like, I'm done. I'm not going to play basketball no more. And which was crazy, because my dad actually got mad at me, because he was like, you need to focus on one sport and be the best player you can at that sport. And I remember one time I would go from football practice, bro, to basketball practice, because my freshman year I was practicing with the varsity team for basketball, but I was on JV for football. I remember I went from football to basketball, and I was at basketball practice, and my dad he comes in the gym.
Yeah.
My dad's a mechanic, so he's got oil all around him and stuff. And I was like, something bad must have happened, because he doesn't ever show up to my practices. And he's like, grab your stuff, we're going home. I was like, what's going on, And then the whole ride home, bro, he was talking to me like, you need to focus on one thing. You need to give it your all if you really want to go, where you say you want to go. And at that time, I didn't understand him. until I grew up a little bit. And you basically have to give your 110% if you really want to make it to that like top elite level.
Yeah, if you're trying to make it to the elite level, that's the key part right there.
Yeah.
Like you have to be almost, you hear it all the time where you have to be almost obsessive
Basically,
of whatever
bro.
that thing that you're trying to be successful in is. So that's super cool, man. So talk to me about your relationship with God then in your high school life, or just in your adolescence to your high school graduation. Were you taught about God, the values of God your whole life?
Yeah, bro. We actually, my families grew up very religious. We're Catholics. I actually played in the church choir, I want to say all the way from 5th grade until I left for college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you got a voice.
Yeah, I played the guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'd never sing, bro. I played the guitar. I learned how to play the bass guitar and the drum set. I tried to play it around with the piano, bro, but it's too complicated for me. I couldn't pick it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so how was that though? You being taught values that might be different from people in your school. How was that?
Well, it kept me away from a lot of trouble, bro. You know, it kept me centered. It instilled in me like the good from the bad, to where if I'm hanging out with people and I know we're doing something we're not supposed to do, I would genuinely feel it inside of me like I was doing something bad. You know? But that's just because of how I was raised, how my parents always took us to church. You know, at one point, my dad, my mom, my sister, me and my younger brother, we were all in the church choir, bro. We would go play at retreats. Like we would travel. Like cool. I think the furthest we would go was like Seaside, you know, like over there, and then play retreats. My dad became a preacher for a little bit. So we were kind of, you know, deep into church growing up, which obviously helped me because knowing God at an early age, I don't want to say you have an advantage over other people, but it for sure, you know, keeps you out of trouble.
It gives you the comfort knowing that even in those lonely times, there's somebody with you.
Yep.
Right. So it's such a benefit. But that's cool. So what things would you have struggled with in high school? Because I talk about it a little bit on the podcast, where like one thing it's just the pressures of people around you. You know, you kind of want to fit in with everybody else, but at the same time, you know that you probably shouldn't be hanging out with certain individuals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
I'd probably say more of like the party life, you know, like obviously your peers, like you talk like, oh, there's going to be this party this weekend, or we're going to go hang out here, this and that, you know, stuff teenagers do. But I would say I didn't really start going out to parties until like my junior year of high school, maybe if that. Obviously, because of what was installed in me, you know, like you have to give it your all for basketball. Plus, you know, I don't want to be doing these things when God's watching, you know, like because he's watching you at all times. Like I would make sure like my parents didn't know anything that I was doing, but then still in the back of my mind, I'm like, dang, bro, like this is what you've really like come to. Like you're hanging out with these people, you're doing this, like. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't terrible, bad stuff, but still, you know, like...
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
No, and I understand, too, where it's like, the reasoning for me kind of not doing things or staying away from certain people was because of the fear of my father first. You know, I didn't want to disappoint him. I didn't want to, like, if he were to catch me doing something, like, first, it would be like a thing I don't even want to deal with, right? Like, what is he going to say? I'm going to get in trouble or whatever. But it also, though, teaches us the relationship between like a father and son would translate to the same relationship we would have with God, right? Where it's like we don't want to let God down. We do our best to live up to his standards, right? So it's the same thing if you think about it, right? Or like that relationship with my dad translates to my relationship with God, because my God is my father, right? He's like, I call him a heavenly father. So So that is super interesting, man. Was there anything you specifically dealt with in high school, or even just did that dealing with where it's like, man, this is something like I just always messed up here,
Um,
almost like a testimony.
I wouldn't say like me particularly messed up, but so my brother, the one that I told you that kind of, motivated me to play basketball.
Yeah.
He was in and out of jail, bro, twice.
Oh wow.
I was first time he went in, I think I was a sophomore, and then he did 6 months, I think. He came out going into my senior year. So, he was never able to watch me play basketball, which was crazy to me because I started playing basketball because of him, And then going into my senior year, same thing happened again. He went back in and stuff. So I wouldn't say like I had to deal with something, but it was more like my whole family, my mom, my parents. Like,
yeah.
Seeing my mom, like how devastated she was, bro, like that hurt me so deep to where like it helped me reach another level of motivation, So, but at that point, I wouldn't say I held a grudge, but I didn't want to talk to my brother because of that. Like, bro, like, you see all this my mom's doing for you, my parents are doing for you, and you come out and it's like, you basically don't care, I would say. Well, his actions made it seem like he didn't care, So it was rough, bro. Like, at times I felt like my parents were more focused on that than on the other four, kids they had out here. And it was rough because I remember one time we had a parent meeting for basketball. And I called my mom after practice like, hey, we have a parent meeting today. Can you guys come at 6? And she was like, well, I'm waiting for your brother to call. Like, I don't think I can make it. And I told her, hey, I know he's in there, and I know, like, you want to be aware of the situation that he's in, or you want to be there for him, but you still have kids out here. I remember telling her that, bro.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I got home, and my dad scolded me, like, like, if it was you, we would do the same thing for you. And that's when it kind of clicked for me, like, okay, like, maybe I'm being a little bit selfish, like, I need to be there for them. I just be there for, like, moral support, basically.
Yeah. It's almost like putting yourself in your parents' shoes, because I mean that is difficult, I would assume, and you hear about it sometimes too. Like when the family's dealing with, maybe they have a child who's sick, the attention that child is given, right, and then it's almost like, you kind of not neglect, or maybe not intentional neglect, but like your attention is so much on this child that might be sick.
Yeah.
That, the other children in the house could almost feel like, yo, I'm still here too. I've heard it before.
Yeah.
That's super interesting though. So did your other siblings, did you guys ever talk about it? Like how you guys felt about that?
It's crazy you mentioned that, bro, because coming from like a Mexican household, I don't know how it is with other people, but we don't really talk about our feelings,
That's the same here.
You just kind of brush it off and
Yeah.
like, nah, we're good. You keep pushing. But I would say my sister, bro, like she was like a second mom growing up to us. She went to college for a little bit. She didn't like that route. So she started working right away, like everything, like shoes we wanted, bro, clothes we wanted, she would buy it for us. Like she was always there for tournaments, like AU tournaments, all this, all that. Like, so I would say with her, I kind of spoke my feelings to her a little bit more than with my parents, just because it was easier to speak to her.
Yeah, because I mean, if you speak to your parents, let's say you were feeling something, they'd probably just take it almost as like you're just complaining or something like that. I understand, because in my family, I mean, I don't have any sisters, right? So I feel like my whole life I went without ever expressing how like I'm dealing with something, talking to somebody about it.
Yeah.
I never did, man. I've never done it because you just don't do it. It's like almost like suck it up kind of mentality, right? Like, oh, you're being a baby, right? If you were to complain about whatever thing, because imagine 4 brothers, right?
Yeah.
No sisters. And usually, women tend to talk more about that stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's more open.
Mm-hmm.
So that's super interesting that you said that because I relate to it 100%.
I mean, I feel like that's just our background. You know, us like Hispanics, like you just. It's frowned upon basically, like, you know, like mental health, like all that, like they don't grasp that idea. Well, some of them.
Some of them, yeah. But I feel you. I feel too. It's almost just in our culture too, as guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you hear about, I mean, the red pill community. If you've ever heard of it, it's all about like all that stuff, right? Where guys can't express their feelings, and I think you can. It just depends on who you're talking to, right? And then if they're even aware of their own feelings, like if they've talked about their own feelings or how they feel about certain things, it is a thing that you do have to kind of be confident, I guess, in being able to do it.
Yeah.
But it is difficult. I mean, sometimes I'll tell my wife something, and then it's hard. Like I don't feel like I should be talking about like, oh, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel kind of like,
I feel you, bro. No, 100%. I feel you.
Yeah. So, but talk to us about that, man. So you said your sister is somebody you talk to. She's like a second mother, you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us more about the relationship with your sister. Like, what were some things you probably, unless if you don't feel like talking about them, you don't have to, but like, how has she been there for you when you needed her?
Yeah. I mean, well, just growing up in high school, like, you know, all my girl troubles, like stuff like that. You know, the pressure of getting good grades because I graduated valedictorian. You know, my class, we had, I think it was like 10 or 11 valedictorians. And it was just, I always hung out with smart people. You know, my basketball friends, they were all smart. We were all in the same classes, taking honor classes, AP classes. And after a while, you know, it kind of drains you a little bit, you know, and I can't go and tell my dad, like, hey, man, like, I have this project that I have to do. Like, it's stressing me out because he probably has a million things going on at his work and he doesn't complain about it, you know? So
yeah,
it was just easier for me to talk to my sister. Girl troubles, bro, school, basketball, like.
Yeah, I got to fix that.
You good. Just basketball too. Say if I have a bad game, you know, like, hey, like I'm feeling down, like this is what happened, like, and she would actually genuinely just want to help. Like, what do you think made you play that way? Or can I help you with your project? You know, can I proofread your essay for you? Or, you know, maybe do this with this girl next time or tell her this, you know, like she was always there for us, bro. And I'm so grateful for her because I feel like without her, like I wouldn't be in the position that I am today for sure.
And have you talked to her about that? Like how like she's been there for you and stuff?
Yeah, you know, we talk, but I don't think she grasped the idea of how like appreciative and thankful I am for her. She knows it just because we're siblings. Like she would have done that for any other sibling, of course. But like I tell her all the time, like I wouldn't be who I am, or I wouldn't be where I am if, you know, you didn't put those shoes on of being a mother to us at times, you know?
Cool. And then so your relationship with your other siblings, because how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 older brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger brother.
And what about your younger brother?
That's like my best friend, bro. Like,
that's cool, man.
Yeah. We talk every day. He's currently up in Sonora playing at a JUCO in Columbia College. It's called Columbia College.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's about to graduate this year and then go to a 4-year and play basketball. But that's my dog, man. Like anywhere I would go, I would kind of try to take him with me. You know, if I'm going to a basketball workout, I'm going to go lift. Like, hey, like, come on, Daniel, let's go lift. Or let's go watch this movie, or let's go hang out here or there. Just because growing up, I always wanted to hang out with my older brothers. But they kind of, you know, push us to the side and then just like go on about their day. So I remember telling myself growing up, like, when I'm older, I'm going to make sure I take him with me just so he doesn't feel left out. So I try to do everything, bro, just to motivate him and then just make him understand, like, you can still win doing the good things, you know?
Yeah.
You can still get a full ride scholarship by putting in the work and getting good grades. You know, like you don't have to be this magical person to where people are gonna look for you. You can just trust, and then it's gonna happen for you. So I mean, I would say me and him are probably the closest, other than me and my sister. And then my oldest brother, bro, I talk to him here and there. You know, he lives in Mexico right now. I talk to him here and there, but it's never like a genuine conversation. Like it's more like we check in, he's doing good, okay, and then that's it, and then we'll talk again, like maybe in a couple weeks or a couple months, you know. And my second oldest brother, he's a good older brother, bro. I would say he for sure showed us, you know, like how to do right, but he wasn't always like that. He had a messed up, you know, upbringing. He messed up around, he messed up a lot, but last couple of years he's for sure, you know, fixed his life up, and for sure, you know, taught me how to, you know, turn yourself from a young adult to being an actual man, you know, and taking care of your family and stuff. So
that's cool, man. And so your transition then from like, okay, high school to college, how was your relationship with God then?
I would say, bro, I started fading a little bit, you know, not in the sense of I stopped going to church or I stopped praying or I stopped, you know, like practicing my faith, but more of like I started doing things that wouldn't seem of a child of God to do, you know, basically saying that I'm this, but my actions and my lifestyle were portray something else, you know. So I feel like because I went from high school, I went to Fresno City. I played 2 years at Fresno City, and then I played 2 years at Colorado Mesa University in Colorado, Grand Junction, Colorado. So I would say going into my freshman year of Fresno City, you know, I was still myself. You know, I was still going to church, still the little good kid, I would say, you know. And then going into my sophomore year, bro, I kind of got a little too comfortable. You know, I started, you know, okay, you know, I'm pretty good at basketball. Like I stopped giving all the glory to God, and I started, you know, pumping my head up a little bit of, you know, I'm this because I put in the work, or I'm this because I've made it this far. And I started hanging out with people that I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with, you know, doing things that I probably shouldn't have done. And it kind of, you know, distanced myself from who I was growing up, basically.
Yeah. And then so in high school, when you would when anytime the conversation of God, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but like almost like being a child of God, but then, you know, feeling like, and this might not even be true, but feeling like you know, you don't talk about God because, you know, it's like nobody's talking about God, right? And so talk to us a little bit about that, like your experience with hanging out with people who probably didn't believe in God or whatever, and then like maybe that conviction you felt of like, no, like I'm not on the same wavelength as y'all.
Yeah, bro. Well, I mean, yeah, we talked about it earlier. Basically, like growing up, I felt like if you spoke out or if you even mentioned anything about like Jesus or God, like people were kind of like push you down, you know, like it was frowned upon basically just to the normal society people, you know. And it was rough, bro, because I would hang out with people at school, and then every weekend I was playing the guitar at church. So it was just like, you know, people would receive me as this like little good kid, and like say if I would do something bad, then they would be like, hey, like you probably shouldn't be doing that because, you know, like you're supposed to be a child of God, this and that. And it was just hard, bro. You know, it was hard to be outspoken.
Yeah.
It was hard to have conversations with people about God. Like I didn't have someone that I could go up and talk to, like, you know, like maybe let's pray about this, or let's read the Bible together. You know, like it was more like, oh, like where are you gonna hang out this weekend, or what are we gonna do this weekend? You know, and it was only through church through my family that I would get that side of, like that religious side of like practicing my faith, and it's tough growing up because that's when it matters the most, that's when you're molding yourself to be the person you're going to be. And yeah, bro, I probably struggled with it, and it only got worse when I went to college because everything multiplies itself by 10,
Yeah. And do you think that's true though? That like, I feel like that's what we feel like we shouldn't talk about. Well, like we don't, just don't bring up God, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's how, we can feel. But do you think that's true? Or do you think that everybody's just kind of thinking how we are? Because I feel like most people, especially if you're Hispanic, grow up in some form of a religious household, right? Whether Catholic or Christian, you're being raised up in a specific way, and then you go to school, and then I feel like everybody just is thinking the same thing, right? And so like we feel isolated because we're not speaking about God, right? So we feel isolated, but maybe just everybody's kind of having the same thing where it's like, oh, are we not supposed to talk about God? I mean, do you think that's, that's just a train of thought I had.
I think you mentioned it perfectly right there. I said, it's just the thinking of we're not supposed to mention it,
Yeah. And it's so weird, huh?
I feel like maybe if it wasn't so frowned upon, people would be a little bit more outspoken or, how would I say, be more comfortable speaking with it at church. But since it's so like they tell you don't do this, don't mention that, like it's basically you're supposed to separate the two, school's for school, and then after you can talk about whatever in church and this and that. But I feel like I feel like there's a lot of people like us, bro, that would probably want them to open those doors for it to be easier for people to speak about it at school.
Yeah, just like people becoming more like, I guess, not afraid. Like that's one of my goals of this podcast. It's just, I'm like just wanting to have a conversation with you. I'm getting to know you. And at the same time, like if somebody's dealing with maybe what we've dealt with, just to know, like, you're not alone in feeling that way. And probably so many people are thinking like how you're thinking. Because man, sometimes like one time in school, bro, I was made fun of. I talked about it once on the pod, but I was made fun of because I said I believed in God. I was like, because they asked me, and I'm like, well, I'm not gonna say I don't, like I feel like that's crossing a line kind of thing,
yeah, for sure.
So I was like, no, I believe in God. And then for 2 hours, I was in an ROP class, so I had it for 2 hours, and they were just for 2 hours just telling me why God doesn't exist, and then I remember just like being like, look, man, I mean, I feel what you're saying, but I still believe.
Yeah.
But like, it's crazy how people like will just try to like, if you're a good kid, they'll make fun of you for that, which is weird.
For sure. Yeah.
It's so weird. Like in school, right? When I was a virgin, they would tell me, they would make fun of me for being a virgin. And I'm like, at the time too, I'd be like, man, I can't be a virgin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking that in my head, like I gotta stop being a virgin. Like I gotta find somebody, But like at the same time, like thinking about it now, I'm like, that's such a weird thing. Like these kids, like they think that it's like some kind of like good thing to be sleeping around.
Yeah.
Where it's like statistically, the more you sleep around, the more partners you have, the higher risk of divorce, right? Because of maybe the experiences you've had and maybe feeling like there's maybe something else, right? But that's a statistic that's real. The more sexual partners you have, the higher risk of divorce or separation from your partner or spouse. So like that, for me, that's so weird, man. Like they would tell me too, they'd make fun of me because I didn't drink.
Yeah.
Like I just wouldn't drink. And I would get clowned on all the time. Or if I didn't smoke, like all my buddies in high school, I hung out with everybody who would smoke weed and they'd get high, but I just never did. But I hung out with them because I was a wrestler. So like I would hang out with some wrestlers.
Did you genuinely not want to, or was it more like I know I'm not supposed to?
See, like I didn't want to because of the things I've seen people do when they're drunk. Right? There's some crazy things. I've in my family that's happened, and then also my dad telling me like how he was. I just did not want to ever be, and I've made like a vow to me and to God that I will never be drunk. I will never do that. So that one, yeah, the weed one, I always was like, man, I wonder how it feels like though.
Yeah.
But I've never done it. I've just never done it. But it is a thought that I've had that where it's like, I wonder what it. And even though I have that desire of maybe wanting to, the Bible talks about Luke 9:23, where if any of you want to follow me, deny yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning and it's like, deny yourselves, pick up your cross daily and follow me. So it's like, even if I were to have a desire of wanting to get high, or if I were to have a desire of anything, I learned to deny myself. Like, even though I feel like this is something I want to do, and this is right, I have to deny myself. If I want to follow God,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I have to do. And
well, that's what picking up your cross and following him means, right? You deny everything that this world puts on us. Like, it's becoming this norm, bro. Like, to hurt yourself or do things that aren't good for you is becoming the norm. And it's just like you said, they make fun of you for doing things that are good for you. Like,
yeah,
like, it's crazy.
So did you deal with that?
Growing up in high school, I would, because obviously I was popular because I played basketball. I was the best basketball player on the team.
Flex, but a good one. Just kidding.
And then, I mean, like I said, bro, like I didn't really start partying until like my junior and senior year. So I would kind of, get made fun of because I wasn't doing all those things that other people would do. I remember one time, actually, it was crazy. This girl told me, she was like, because I told you I hung out with all my basketball friends who, basically you could call them nerds. We were all nerds.
Sure, yeah.
She said you would get more girls if you hung out with different people. I remember her saying that.
She said that?
Yeah, I remember her saying. She was a cheerleader too. I won't say no names, but
no, that's good. Yeah,
she's a cheerleader, bro. And then I told all my friends that, and I was just thinking like, that's crazy, bro. Like, these are my friends who I feel good around, who, like, I grew up my whole life. Like, why wouldn't I hang out with them, Like, but it was just crazy to me, like, how.
Isn't that weird?
It's so weird, bro.
That's so weird, man. And imagine how many kids are dealing with that, where it's like they're feeling that pressure of like, I have to do what everybody else is doing, whether it be smoking, whether it be just hanging out with people who are bad influences,
Mm-hmm.
just to fit in better.
Yep.
And that's like so crazy, man. And that's why, like, I always talk about that. My conversations always lead to something like that, but it's because I feel like it's super necessary to talk about, because like all that stuff after high school, after college, all those friends that you feel like you have are gone.
Yep.
None of them are there.
Mm-hmm.
You think that you have somebody that's a real one? Boom, gone. Who's there for you after high school? You might have one really good friend, maybe two, but it's your fam.
Yeah.
Your family's there. And it's like nobody else. And kids think, I got to be popular. I got to have all these friends. It's like, dude, none of them are going to be there. None of them.
After those 4 years, none of that matters.
None of that matters, man. None of it matters. It's like, what have you taught yourself? How you said, right? We're molding ourselves. But yeah, we're molding ourselves in our adolescence, right? So it's like, these are really important times, because I feel like we're always constantly being molded.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the important times where it's like, you can set yourself up to have the best outcome in life, right? And what I think will set you up the most is teaching yourself discipline. Discipline is really important. Putting in work even when you don't feel like it. You were a valedictorian.
Mm-hmm.
I was a 1.8 GPA kid. I barely graduated.
And be like that, bro.
Yeah, no, like they told me I was the second to last in my class.
Oh wow.
Second or third to last. And you're telling me what's his name? He was a counselor. I forget his name.
Navarrete?
Huh?
Navarrete?
Yeah, Navarrete.
Yeah.
He told me, he's like, look, you're not gonna graduate if you don't bring up your grades. And I remember I just didn't care, man. I just was like, I didn't apply myself. But that is terrible now thinking about it, where it's like those are important times to teach, like you, man, self-discipline. Like you taught yourself, or maybe your dad was teaching you, like, hey, put in that work.
For sure, my dad, bro. It's crazy you mentioned that about like friends and stuff, because my dad would always tell me, he's like, friends, you can count them on your hand. Like you have maybe 5 good friends. Everyone else is just an acquaintance.
Yeah.
And he would always say like, because I would always be like, he'd be like, whose house are you going to go to? I'd be like, oh, I'm going to my friends. Well, I'm going to go hang out with my friends, or I'm going to do that. And he would tell me like, well, how many friends do you have? Like, and I would just be like, oh, like I have a lot, man. Like I have a bunch of friends. And he was like, well, how many like real friends do you have? And I was, back then I thought everybody was my real friend. I was like, what do you mean? Like I have at least like 15, people. And he was like, no, like he told me, he goes like, watch when you graduate, like you realize like the only people that truly are there for you is your family. Like that's all that matters. And it's crazy you said that, because I remember my dad telling me that growing up all the time.
And that's something you learned though, man. Like my dad would tell me that too. And it's like, I feel like you don't feel if you're listening and you're still in high school and you're like, nah, I got real ones. You probably genuinely feel like you do. But once you get out, even college, once you get to college, you lose half of them.
Yep.
And then after college, if you were to make more, if you were to keep the same after college, then it's even less. Like real friends where like you guys are talking, hanging out daily, or not even daily, but just keeping up with each other. Like everybody got their own life. You know what I mean? Like everybody is trying to make it.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't expect people to be there all the time, because everybody else is trying to make it and trying to do something for themselves. So I'm glad we hit that topic, because it's super important.
For sure.
So how do you teach these kids, maybe you being a coach? I talked to Jenkins about this a little bit, the self-discipline part to these kids, right? Do you see that sometimes like some of these kids can be so much better if they just discipline themselves more?
Oh yeah, bro. 100%. I see it every day, but it's just so easy for them now to like not put in that work just because they're distracted by so many other things, like back then when I was in high school, bro, like weed and stuff, like the wax carts, like those were barely starting to come around, and like now I feel like you have those. It's like basically like a little pen, bro, in your pocket, and you can just get high whenever you want, or like just things they're exposed to, like social media or like YouTube or like shows. It's just so easy for them to find happiness somewhere else instead of, putting in the hard work, which sucks because most of the time, like it's uncomfortable. Like the amount of work you have to put in to be good at something, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it sucks. So now I feel like now it's just so much easier for kids to, just be happy doing something else instead of just, trying to focus on being the best at their sport or like at school or whatever they want to do in life,
So how do you, if you see that in a kid, what do you ever go up to him and like try to tell him like, hey, like put in some work, or how do you go about that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of easier for me because I'm still playing, so I still have to be in shape. So what I would do is, as soon as practice was done, I would grab 2 or 3 kids, like, hey, keep your shoes on, we're gonna work out, and I would have them work out with me, bro. Like, Mario and Ronick, bro, I would have them work out with me like every day, basically.
That's cool, man.
Like we're rebounding for each other. I'm telling them what to do, like this and that. It would be times, bro, like we would finish practice around 8 p.m. We wouldn't leave the gym till like 10. Like his parents are calling him like, hey, like get home. And they'd be like, oh, I'm in the gym working out with Rico, this and that. So for me, it was a little bit more easier because I can kind of do it firsthand with them. Like you see the work I'm putting in.
Yeah.
And I'm in the off season technically. You're in season. Like this is for you. Like, come on, let's go. And I feel like after a little while, they kind of caught on, to where like it went from being 2 kids to being, 3 or 5, or being, like sometimes we would have the whole team stay after and shoot,
wow.
So I feel like them just seeing the amount of work that it takes to, be at that top level, they kind of grasped that idea a little bit, and it was just easier for me. But I mean, talking to them too, it helps, but you can only talk to them so much before they start to tune you out,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it has to be, they have to see it, and they have to, experience it for them to actually get an interest in it.
Yeah. And then, so how has God, with everything that you're doing, and even putting like everything that you've been doing, the coaching, the assistant coaching, the pro basketball player, how have you felt like God has helped you during those times?
Well, he's for sure helped me, be more confident in myself, to where before I had a lot of self-doubt. I was very insecure.
Really?
Yeah, bro, it's crazy.
To me, you seem like a confident guy.
See that now I am, and like maybe a couple years ago I would still, but it was kind of like a front, fake it till you make it kind of thing. And then, but deep inside, bro, like I would be like, bro, like if I would have to go, talk to kids or go somewhere where I'm going to have to be in front of people, bro, deep inside, I was panicking, bro. Like,
really,
it's crazy. Like, I've always been like that. I've always been really insecure, really like a lot of self-doubt in me. Until recently, when I came back from my last season, I started working a lot on myself because my mental health wasn't always there. Like I was so, like I said, like self-doubt, bro, 100%. Like, and I would put up this front to where I would look good for a little bit, but when it came down to it, you could see it sometimes. You could see the self-doubt, or you can see I wasn't confident in myself, comfortable. And I feel like now, after, actually getting back to my roots, practicing my faith again, like back to the things that really matter, I'm starting to be more confident in myself. I'm starting to become that person, that God always wanted me to be, to where like now I can go and talk to kids, I can go coach, and it's just like, it's natural for me now, it's just like, but it's crazy because I wasn't always like this. And I remember I was watching this, I think, do you know who Inky Johnson is? No, he's like a motivational speaker too, like a really religious one. And I remember him saying, self-doubt does not come from God, and that kind of stuck with me. Like, like why wouldn't self-doubt come from God? Well, basically because he wants you to be the best version of yourself, because you're a representation of him, so that stuck with me, bro. So every time, like now I get these thoughts like, oh, like you're not good enough, or you shouldn't, like, who are you to try to help these kids, or, stuff like that. Like, I just pray about it a little bit, maybe like 5-10 seconds, like, God, like keep these thoughts away from me, allow you to speak through me, and boom, just like that, bro, I'm back being confident and being, that person that, I'm trying to be.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, because we have peace and assurance in knowing that we are saved because of what Jesus Christ has done on the cross. And so we can have confidence in that Christ, because Christ lives in us now. And how you said we're representations of Christ. Our end goal is way bigger than anything here. Yep. Right? Like our end goal is salvation and eternity, to be with God. And that relationship, that personal relationship we can have with our God, it's so beautiful, man. And it brings comfort to me sometimes too when I'm stressed out. And that's crazy to hear, man, that you dealt with that, because I feel like everybody has it and they just don't talk about it too. That's another thing.
For sure.
Like, bro, like I was super insecure in high school. I had specific things I hated about myself. I don't know why I would like over focus on things that were like so small. Like, I hate this about myself. I hate this about myself. But I fronted, because my high school, my senior quote was, "Thank God I'm hot." But I did not.
That's a good.
It was Gudgel let me put that. I was like, thank God I'm hot. But I did not feel like that. But I just fronted. Like I would just say it. Like, yeah, I'm hot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
psh. But I didn't really think it. Like, bro, I would like I could point out so many things I hate about myself. But yeah, man, that insecurity part, a lot of people, I'm pretty sure, can relate to that. Um, so so the now you're in a position where you feel a lot more confident, how you said, because of that peace you have with God and Him speaking through you, right? That's beautiful to hear, bro. That's beautiful to hear that you doing that, and then you being an example to these kids. You know, I told Jenkins this, and it probably it translates to you too, where you're probably being that father figure, even that older brother figure that these kids don't have. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe like how you dealt with the thing with your older brother. You having, if you were to have a coach in those times, like how you're doing, where you'll put in that extra work with them, because maybe they don't have a brother to be practicing at home. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe they don't have a dad who's encouraging them to put in extra time. You know, if you want to succeed, let's put in some extra work. Let's put in
Yeah.
this discipline, right? And then also too, you know, you being centered. I mean, your foundation in God and in Christ just helps so much more, and the things you do, right, and the peace you have now. If these kids were to come up to you, you know, I don't know if you're allowed to, but like you're a representation of Christ, and
Mm-hmm.
so to hear you say that, and to hear you like being an example to these kids is so cool, man. Because I know so many kids need it. Like I have two older brothers too. I love my brothers, and I'm not gonna say nothing bad about them. But they didn't really motivate like that, and I wish I had. My dad too didn't really motivate me like that, and I wish I had somebody who would be doing that in high school. You know, where it's like, let's put in some extra work.
Yeah.
You know, or even some advice, like Jenkins giving these kids advice, and you probably giving them advice. That's super cool to hear.
And I didn't always like I started coaching last year when I first came back from college, and at first when they asked me like, you know, like, would you want to help out coach, I was kind of, like I said, like I was really insecure, you know, like I was like, you know, like I don't want to deal with kids all day, you know, like, you know, this and that, you know, I got other things to focus on. To where now the way I think of it is, you know, this is probably something, you know, God wants me to do. This is probably something that He's put in my path, you know, to try to, like you said, try to help those kids who don't have nobody to help them or somebody to guide them, you know. So more now, I don't do it for myself. I do it, you know, just because I know I have to be a server. You know, I try to give back to the community. You know, Kerman's a great community, bro. Like, it's very like everybody's really close with each other. So I kind of don't want to. I don't want our youth and our kids to you know, get misled to the wrong direction when I could have done something about it, you know, and try to help out a little bit. So that's where my head's at a little bit now, to where, like, you know, I put my personal things aside, my own feelings aside. I might not want to do it that day, but it's my duty and I have to go do it. And, you know.
That's cool, man. Because that's like your own little like ministry in a sense, where like, cause that's your passion, right? Basketball. And that's like your gift is excelling in it and stuff. Or maybe just being a very disciplined person and using it to like instill value in these kids. It's cool, man. That's super dope. I encourage you. I'll be praying for you, bro. That, you know, you continue, and then your journey to Mexico.
Appreciate it, bro.
I hope that goes super well for you. Pretty sure you're gonna be killing it in life. We're about to hit an hour though, man. So we got a little bit more time. Do you have something you want to talk about?
The only thing I wanted to talk about was going back to my college days, you know. So you know how I told you I started, you know, getting away from God a little bit.
Yeah.
So I had just graduated Fresno City. I had, I want to say 3-4 offers on the table to sign to a 4-year, you know, and I didn't know where I was going to go at that point. You know, I was like, oh, well, I could go here, I could go there, blah, blah, blah. It's crazy, bro. A lot of people don't know this. I was in a car accident.
Wow.
I was coming home 3 a.m. one day. Had just dropped some people off. I was about 2 minutes away from my home, bro. And there was an irrigation pump that was left on overnight, or was broken, I think, because there's a lot of vineyards where I live. And the road was flooded. Like, you can't really see. There's no lights down Belmont Avenue. And I hit the water. I hydroplaned, bro, and I flipped 5 times.
Damn.
I only remember it five flips. It could have been more, And I landed upside down against an almond tree, And that's why I have this tattoo right here, bro. This is the day it happened, July 14th, 2019. I'll never forget. And this Psalm 138:7, it says, "Though I walk through the midst of trouble, you preserve my life." It's crazy because when it happened, I landed upside down and I was in shock. I couldn't move. It felt like 3 minutes, but it could have been longer than that. And at first I couldn't move. And the first thing that popped through my head was, I'm paralyzed. Like, I'm done for. Like, no, I hadn't signed, bro, nothing. The first thing, like, my scholarship's gone. That's the first thing that popped into my head. And, after a little bit, I started feeling my fingers. And then, because I'm gripping the steering wheel, I started feeling my fingers. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm good. I'm fine. Mind you, I'm upside down this whole time. So I start feeling around, like I start feeling myself. Okay, like, I'm good. I can feel my shoulders, my chest, my legs. All right, I'm good. So I unbuckle myself and I try to get out through my door, but it's dented in and against the almond tree. So I'm like, dang, I can't get out through here. So I try to get out through the passenger door and it still won't open. So I don't know why in my head I'm like, bro, this car's about to explode. Because the movies, bro. I promise you. I was like, dang, bro, I need to get out of here. So I start kicking the passenger door open. I get out. And I'm like, okay, like, my phone. I grab my phone and I call my sister, like, hey, like, I'm around the corner. Like, come get me. I just flipped. She was like, what do you mean you flipped? And I was like, come get me. Like, like, I'm going crazy. Like, come get me. So I hung up. And I'm looking at the road to see, like, what's wrong with the road? Like, what did I hit? And I see a bunch of water, bro. And the crazy thing is, I would always carry this cross made out of palm trees. The one they give you on Palm Sunday? Yeah. I would carry it right here on top of the where the mirror comes down from the car. So I look on the road, bro, and it was in the middle of the road. So I was like, oh, my Lord. Like, I picked it up, bro, and I grabbed it, and I just went to go sit down, like, just praying, like, thank you, Jesus. Like, you saved my life. Like,
that's crazy.
It's crazy, bro. And thinking about it now, if I would have died at that point, bro, like, I don't think I would have gone to heaven, Like, I feel like God gave me, like, a second chance in life, like, like, to get right and make sure, like, I save myself and try to save as many people as I can down the road, and bring them to him. Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot of people don't know that, bro. But, like, after that accident, that's when the mental health started kicking in. Like, I brushed it off. I was like, I'm fine. Like, I survived it. Nothing happened to me, bro. Not one scratch. Like, nothing broke it. Nothing. It's crazy. When the paramedics came, they were like, you should go buy a lottery ticket tonight. That's how lucky you were. And I was like, that's crazy, bro. Like, and then I left college, bro. Like, I would always say I'm fine. Like, nothing happened. But I started developing, like, anxiety disorder to where before games, I would start getting really, really nervous, and I had no idea why. Like, like, I started thinking, my thoughts started becoming negative to where I started thinking I'm gonna have a bad game before I even play the game. Same thing with life. Like, oh, I have a test, I'm gonna bomb it. Like, my life just became so negative after that, and I didn't know why. Like, I just didn't know why. And I tried to go talk to, like, multiple therapists and stuff, but I could never get myself to actually go do it until this past season when I went to Mexico to go play, bro. Same thing, I would always, like I said, I always had self-doubt in me, like I was insecure and stuff. And something happened with the club to where it was better for me to come home, I didn't finish the season out. It was just better for me to come home and try to get another team to buy my rights to where I could go to a different team, you know? And it was crazy to me that I didn't learn to work on myself. I didn't learn to get back to my roots with God. I didn't learn to get back to my roots of being right with my family and like practicing my faith until basketball was taken away from me. Like, you know, my life was almost taken away. And still then, like, I didn't really, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I knew, you know, Jesus saved my life. I knew God, like, you know, like if it wasn't for him and if it wasn't for how I was raised growing up, like I could have died that day, you know? But it wasn't until basketball was taken away from me to where I took a step back and I reflected like, okay, you know, like I've come so far from where I'm supposed to be, from the person I'm supposed to be. Like, what have I done? You know, like, and then that's when these last couple months, that's when I've been like self-reflecting a lot, you know, like I started journaling, bro. Like I started going to church by myself. Like even if my mom and my dad like aren't going to go, I'll go by myself, bro. And it's something that I've never done before. Like I was never comfortable like sitting by myself in church and just being there, to where now like I'm the one telling my mom like, hey, let's go to church, or like, hey, let's do this or let's do that. And it's crazy to me, bro. Like thinking about it now, that my life was almost taken away and I didn't reflect on that until, you know, the thing that I loved most, which is basketball. It was just taken in like
crazy.
Yeah, in a snap of a finger.
Yeah, that's crazy because it's like yeah, that was your love, right? Yeah. Like in front of God probably. And it didn't take you till it was taken away. Not even your life. Like That's crazy. That is crazy. That's wild, man. That's an awesome testimony though. Like the that you have, you know, and then that self-reflection that you do. That's crazy. 5 times?
5, but I only remember it being 5 times. Like, you know how the movies, like, it's slow motion? Like, yeah. It felt just like that, bro. Like,
slow motion?
Yeah. Slow motion. Way. Because at first, you know how when you hydroplane, they tell you don't hit the brakes?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. I hit the
you didn't pay attention to
I hit the brakes, bro.
It's just an automatic thing, yeah.
And I remember I seen the back of the car I started doing like donuts basically, and that's happened to me before too, where like, you know, I've almost spun out. So I was like, you know, I got this. I was trying to just, you know, steer the wheel, boom, 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 and the next thing I remember was just flips, and it felt like slow motion, and then I'm not gonna lie to you, I was just waiting for like my eyesight to go black, you know, like I was like, this is it, like I'm done for, like. But the whole time, like, I was just awake, and then I landed upside down, and I was just staring at the steering wheel, like, what's up? You know, like, what do I do now?
That's so wild. Where was this at?
Belmont Avenue, bro. Like,
Belmont and what?
Belmont and I want to say, like, close to Siskiyou or Lassen. Belmont and Lassen. Because they had to put flares down and everything on the road.
That's wild, man. And that's crazy that you said that the cross was right there on the floor, right there on the road.
I remember my mom gave it to me, because, I mean, we go to the church all the time, you know, like, you know, they give you, you know, the cross I'm talking about, right? They make it out of palm trees.
Yeah, I know what cross you're talking about.
And my mom would, everything my mom gives us, like, with church, like bracelets or anything, she'll always have the priest bless it. So it was blessed, bro. And like, I remember like I was looking at the road, like, what did I hit? And I just remember seeing the cross right there in the middle of the road. And I was just like, I got the chills, bro. I picked it up and I was just went to the side, sat down and just, you know, started praying like, thank you.
That's cool, man. Well, I'm glad. Well, yes, that is an awesome testimony, bro. I'm just awesome testimony. And it's awesome that you've been able to reflect on it, you know, and look back and go back to your roots, right? In that relationship, and craving and wanting to strengthen and build that relationship with God. That's super cool, man. That's super cool. All right. So, how long do you think we've been filming for?
I want to say like a minute, an hour 30.
They say right there?
Nah, does it?
Nah, man. It's been an hour. It's been like about an hour, 5 minutes. So it's a cool conversation, bro. I'm glad you came here. Look, I have 2 quick round questions that I ask. Just 2 fast round questions.
Uh-huh.
All right. The first one I ask is, What's your favorite Bible verse?
Philippians 4:13, bro. I can do everything through Christ who strengthens me.
That's cool. Why do you like that one?
Because like I said, I was always, like very insecure. Like I always had a lot of self-doubt in me. Like I would always feel like I would need somebody else to give me that reinforcement. Like, yeah, you could do it, bro. Like you got it. Like go ahead. And then I would feel like, okay, like I got this. But just understanding that verse, we don't need nobody else but God, Jesus. Like if you pray about it, bro, if you inside of you truly believe that God is with you and that he's never gonna leave you alone. You're never gonna how would I say, feel empty, I guess you could say. Then you could really do anything in life you want, bro, because that's the only person that at the end of the day his opinion is the only one that really matters.
Yeah. And what's great too is that, like, no matter what you're going through, right? That's the comfort that you can have, is that I can do all things. Even when I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxiety, you're feeling whatever it is you're feeling. I'm going through a really hard time in my life, even in this moment, I can do all things through Christ.
Yep.
Right. And that's so powerful. So
that's crazy you asked that. That's why I bought this shirt, bro. I bought it from John. I told him
JDO But God Co. Shout out to But God Co.
Yeah. I told him that's my favorite verse, bro. I really like that he's doing like he's making it kind of like trendy, but it has a message behind it, because then it attracts more people where they might not even know what this verse means, but they'll go look it up just because they like it on the way it looks on the shirt.
Yeah, dude. No, that's super cool. I love everything John does. So all his shirts are pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so if you have one thing you can tell your younger self, what would that be?
Be patient.
Patience.
Be patient. I was very impatient with anything in life. Like, if you were to tell me, like, hey, I have something for you, but I can't tell you what it is, I'm going to drive you crazy until you tell me what that is, bro. Like, or even just in life in general, bro, I was very impatient to where I wanted to get to the top. I wanted to be a pro basketball player. I wanted to graduate college so fast to where sometimes I would miss out on the things right in front of me, like you miss out on the present looking too far into the future.
Yeah.
So for sure, just be patient and just know that everything's going to happen when it's supposed to happen, not when you want it to happen.
Patience.
Yep.
That's a good one. Yeah. A lot of impatience right now, and, like feeling like you need to be where you're going to be for the rest of your life. Maybe like, oh, I need to know my career path. Oh, I need to know all this stuff. Like, it's like, to be patient, man.
Yep.
Especially like for me, I've been super impatient, and it's not till recently where I've finally accepted to be like, you know what? All these things that I want to do, that's all for me, but what am I doing for God, right? So it's like, that's when I started this podcast and just be like, look, God, you're in charge, so I'm just gonna go with it. But as long as I'm pushing your message, that should be good. But yeah, patience, super good.
What would you tell your younger self?
I would say patience. Patience is a really good one. Patience, and because my life, I was so consumed with like wanting to be successful, right? So like I did so many things. I've tried so many different avenues in life where like, if I heard that it can make you money, I tried it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I've done all that stuff, man. But my obsession was success, right? And like, or the success in the sense of how the world sees it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I was obsessed with it, bro. Like I would tell myself, that's how obsessed I was. I would say I'm a loser, and everybody thinks I'm a loser, but I'm going to prove everybody wrong. Right. Like I would say stuff like that, bro. Like I would write on my whiteboard right there, everybody thinks I'm a loser. And like because that was my opinion of myself. Mm-hmm. And I was so consumed with change. Like I wanted to change that opinion of myself because I felt like I wasn't where I should be.
Yeah.
But that's from the world, from the world, right? And it wasn't until like recently, bro, where I finally was like, you know what? All this stuff that I'm trying to chase, all these things that I'm doing, like it does not, it was so unfulfilling, right? And it was so like bad for my mental health, right? That opinion of myself, right? Like that's so negative. And being consumed with something that is unimportant. It wasn't until I finally surrendered and I told God, I'm like, look, I'm gonna put this. I'm getting rid of this. All right. I feel like I have a calling to push your message.
Yeah.
And instead of chasing all these things that I want to chase, I'm finally gonna do something to glorify the kingdom. And so that's when I started this podcast. And that's when I started this podcast, like a month or 2 months before, is when I finally was like, I'm done chasing that success. I'm done telling myself that, because I'm a child of God. First and foremost, that's the most important. I'm a child of God. And so I know that no matter what goes on in this life, no matter what I go through, no matter what happens, whatever success I have, I know that I have peace and I have salvation because of Jesus and what he did on the cross for me. And so I finally got rid of that whole success mindset. Now I feel like in such a good place right now, man. It's all because of God. So yeah, patience, bro. Patience. Like not till when I first. This is the crazy part too. I keep going. Well, I'm already at an hour 13, but like, yeah, I'll talk about it later because I can ramble. We're already at an hour 14, man. So
it didn't even seem that long.
I know it goes fast, bro. It goes fast. And I'll tell you, like once we hit a certain like minute, it just starts more flowy. Because in the beginning, it's like I'm just trying to fill it out, trying to see how it's going, but then it becomes flowy. So I genuinely enjoy the conversation, man. I'll be praying for you, and I wish you the best of luck in your venture that you're going to be taking in your professional career, which is basketball. And you're going to Mexico, right?
Yeah, I'm going back to Mexico. Good. Hopefully soon, man. Hopefully they approve my travel document, but like I said, at first I was, like, dang, I need to get out there. And then I started coaching to where like, okay, like I have something here that I need to do first before I leave. Now that's over with. And I'm like, I started to get a little impatient again, but I finally, told myself like, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. I just need to be ready for when it happens and then just go out there and kill.
Yeah. The one thing I love this quote is like, success happens when preparation and opportunity meet.
Yep.
Right. That's when success happens. And this is when I start talking, but I like that quote. Like I still have some things I carry, like being consistent with filming and stuff. But yeah, success happens when opportunity and preparation meet. I love that.
I want to tell you, bro, I'm glad you're doing this.
Thanks, man.
It's for sure something that's needed, not just like in this community, but in the world in general, because everything is so, negative and evil now, to where like there's people out there that truly want, to follow Christ or to truly better themselves. And it's through like podcasts like these that they're going to find, that encouragement to keep going and eventually break through to where, the opinion of the world or the opinion of their peers isn't going to affect them.
No, yeah, and that's key, man. And that's why I wanted to do this so bad. Like one thing why I love having guests and stuff too is because people are going to follow. The people who are going to be watching are people who know you, right? And so at least in the beginning, because this is just the beginning of the pod. I've only been doing it for like 2-3 months. But the people who are going to watch are going to be who know you, right? So when they see you talk about your testimony, your journey through your life, things you've gone through, and that comfort you have in Christ, like that's going to be speaking to them, right? And so in a way, you're reaching out to them. And that's why I love having guests, because it gives them an opportunity to be able to share their message, be able to share something that they've gone through in life, or a specific thing they want to talk about, that, you know, this gives them a platform to do that. So thanks, man. I appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah. No, I'm glad you're doing this, bro. I hope, you know, you have success doing this, and I hope this is just the beginning of, you know, something great for you, and then for obviously the glory of God, you know, to keep moving forward. But
yeah, man.
For sure want to give you your flowers for doing this.
Very appreciate it, man. Thank you. They're beautiful flowers. I appreciate that. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to follow. Do you have a plug? Do you want to plug something or no?
No, it's all good. They'll find it eventually.
All right, they'll find it.
They'll follow it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys got any advice, please leave a comment down below, or send me a message on Instagram if you got any feedback for me. And with that being said, God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.